Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hobart. I'm Carla Banks. Please join us for a moment of meditation and reflection as we listen to our Prelude, played by Jeremy Jacobson. Thank you, Jeremy. Please join us as we light our chalice. The words are printed on your screen. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. This morning, our opening words are by Shel Silverstein from his book, The Giving Tree. Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy. Every day the boy would come and he would gather her leaves.
Not quite as close, Carla.
Oh, thank you. And make them into crowns and play king of the forest. And he would climb up her trunk and swing from her branches and eat apples. And they would play hide and go seek. And when he was tired, he would sleep in her shade. And the boy loved the tree very much. And the tree was happy. But time went by. And the boy grew older. And the tree was often alone. Then one day the boy came to the tree, and the tree said, "Come, boy, come and climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and eat apples and play in my shade and be happy." "I'm too big to climb and play," said the boy. "I want to buy things and have fun. I want some money. Do you have any money?" "Well, I'm sorry," said the tree. "I have no money. I only have leaves and apples." "Take my apples. Take them to the city and sell them, and then you'll be happy." So the boy climbed up the tree and took the apples and carried them away, and the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and the tree was sad. Then one day the boy came back, and the tree shook with joy. And she said, "Come, boy, climb up my branches. Swing from my branches, climb up my trunk, and be happy." "Well, I'm too busy to climb trees," said the boy. "I want a house to keep me warm. I want a wife, and I want children. So I need a house. Can you give me a house?" "Well, I have no house," said the tree. "The forest is my home. But you may cut off my branches and make a house, and then you'll be happy." So the boy cut off all the branches and carried them away to make his house. And the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away a long time. And when he came back, the tree was so happy she could hardly speak. "Come, boy," she whispered. "Come and play." "I'm too old and sad to play," said the boy. "I want a boat that will take me far away from here. Can you give me a boat?" "Cut down my trunk and make a boat and sail away, and then you'll be happy." So the boy cut down her trunk and made a boat and sailed away. And the tree was happy, but not really. After a long time, the boy came back again. "I'm sorry, boy, but I have nothing left to give you. My apples are gone." "My teeth are too weak for apples," said the boy. "My branches are gone," said the tree. "You cannot swing on them." "I'm too old to swing on branches," said the boy. "My trunk is gone," said the tree. "You cannot climb." "I'm too tired to climb," said the boy. "I'm sorry," sighed the tree. I wish I could give you something, but I have nothing left to give. I'm just an old stump. I'm sorry." "I don't need much now," said the boy. "Just a quiet place to sit and rest. I'm very tired." "Well," said the tree, straightening herself up as much as she could, "well, an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy. Sit down and rest." And he did. And the tree was happy. The end. Please join us for our opening hymn, "Morning Has Broken." The words are printed on your screen.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet dull rains new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, Eden's soft
Thank you. That was beautiful. Please join us for our affirmation of faith. The words are printed on your screen. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. Service is its prayer. And this is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please take a moment to greet your neighbor. You will be unmuted.
Good morning.
Hi, I miss you all.
Morning.
Hello, everybody.
Morning, friends.
And now join us for our doxology. The words are printed on your screen.
From all that dwell below the sky, then songs of hope and faith arise. Then peace, goodwill on earth be sown, through every land and every tongue.
That was lovely. Now we invite you to share your joys and concerns. We believe that a joy shared is increased and a concern shared is lessened. While the music plays, type in the chat box any joys or concerns you have. Your joys and concerns are not made public and are not recorded. If the chat box is not visible, click on chat at the bottom of your computer screen. Or if you're on a phone, click participants, then chat. Thank you for sharing, and please know that although we cannot be together in person, your joys and concerns are carried in all of our hearts.
My name is Bob Allen. I've been a member of this church since 1964. And my experience in listening to and participating in hundreds of sermons and services, I think is an excellent qualification. The topic today surrounds trees, specifically my trees, your trees, and our trees. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge Earth Day and also Arbor Day. Earth Day originated in 1970, almost in conjunction with the Clean Air Act of 1970, which was the first major federal environmental rule intended to improve the climate. Also, the Arbor Day, which focuses on trees, goes back to the middle 1800s. So it's been around for quite a while. The trick here, I think we'll all recognize, is to make every day Earth Day and every day Arbor Day. So first, my trees. That's a misnomer because my wife Zita actually came with 25 acres of land. Our home is built on one corner of that original 25 acres. Of that acreage, about 15 acres is old growth trees. The trees on our land are primarily oaks, red oaks, white oaks, bur oaks, pin oaks, and there's probably a couple other varieties also. We also have cherry trees, and we have a considerable number of shag bark, I'll be all right, shag bark histories. And boy, those nuts are fun to walk on when they fall from the tree. Not. At any rate, Zita's family and the trees and the land goes back to 1945. Then Zita and I, in 1980, purchased another adjacent quarter of a quarter section. That translates to what was left of 40 acres after US Highway 6 went through and after one home was built on it. What we ended up with was 44 acres that are classified by the Indiana DNR as a classified forest and wildland. We got involved in that program because the taxes in a municipality are prohibitive to hold undeveloped land. And there's a good reason for that. In many cases, people are speculating and there's going to be a large subdivision and 100 homes and all that sort of thing. In our case, that was never our intent. We did sell enough of the land to recoup the money we spent during 1980. And our land now involves two parcels, one of 19 acres and the balance to make up 44 acres. Just briefly, the DNR program that we're in, the Classified Forest and Wildlands, offers a considerable tax break. And there are restrictions. It's still our land. We can hunt on it, we can walk on it, we can do pretty much anything we want to do except three things. We cannot build a structure, we cannot raise a farm crop, and we cannot have any domestic animals. The DNR comes and inspects the land to make sure that somebody's not trying to get a cornfield or something like that into the program. And they were very happy with ours. And the additional features, we have a creek that runs through it called French Creek. And this creek, about 20 years ago, became a 5-acre lake, courtesy of bank beavers that moved in. It's an interesting addition. We enjoy it, but unfortunately, a lot of our full-grown oak trees didn't survive. When you raise the water table about 4 feet, those along the bank actually lost their ability to stay standing as the earth softened up. The oaks are also pretty delicate plants, if the truth be known. They like the soil that they're in. That's the reason they're there. They like the amount of moisture that they get. We tried about 5 years ago to add 100 white oaks, and we got the saplings from the State Tree Nursery in Jasper. Actually, another group that we're involved with, the Friends of Robinson Lake, for many years, I think 7 or 8 years, we gave away trees at Robinson Lake Park, several different species. We changed it up. And what the group did is, with our fundraising money, we went down to the nursery and selected the trees. They went over very well most of the time, and we may do it again. We did that in conjunction with the Hobart Garden Club. The trees that we planted were planted in accordance to the recommendations of the DNR after the land was prepared. That's another interesting story. In effect, we killed everything off with Roundup under their direction, and then we placed the trees on 10-foot grids. It was interesting. A lot of people told me, do you know you're not going to get any money out of those trees? You're not going to live long enough. Well, that wasn't the intent. And when we moved in our house, we had 20 oak trees in the immediate front yard. Actually, we had about 24. 3 of them were struck by lightning, which is a real enemy of trees. You can imagine people get struck sometimes. So here's the tree up 100 feet in the air, and they're mostly moisture, just like we are. So there's a pretty good path to ground. So you do lose some trees from that part of nature. The other part of nature that we found is extremely destructive. You can chalk it up to Walt Disney, I think, because we have so many white-tailed deer in the state of Indiana, considerably more than we had in this state before the white men came. They love the farm fields where they can get the residue. They used to have 1 fawn, now they have 2 and sometimes 3 because the food supply is so great. They're also very adaptive. They make do with what's available. At any rate, out of our 100 trees, 20 survived. And that's because the deer love to eat them. We had another disaster just this spring. As you all know, the state tree is a tulip tree. We have one of those that we planted, and Zeta planted a second one. She didn't get the guardian fence up early enough, and one of our friendly deers also nibbled that almost to nothing. So it's unfortunate that a beautiful animal that's very intelligent is the real enemy of young trees. I think there are other threats to trees. We've lost the ash trees, we lost the elms, sometimes to foreign imported invasive beetles and the like. With oak trees, we've had cases of oak wilt, which is transmitted through the root structure. And all you can do is take down the tree that came down with it, or you can let it go. By the way, back to the classification of our land. We don't have to do anything, but we do things. They like to have you remove grapevines and remove poison ivy vines, which grow to be 3 inches in diameter. They go up the trees and they actually blank out the light. The trees, of course, have a huge benefit. 2 different ways. We talked about shade. We all live in structures built with wood. Just look around where you are now, and you'll see the tremendous amount of wood that we've harvested and used to shelter ourselves and do 101 other things. Interestingly, the covered bridges in Indiana were actually made from tulip trees. They grow pretty fast, and they're structurally pretty strong. The the situation with oaks is really pretty good. They are pretty strong. However, unlike giant redwoods and sequoias, they have a pretty defined lifespan. Red oak trees, about 75 years. The white oaks, much longer than that, 150 or more. So there is a difference in the various species. And lest I forget, you're all invited to come walk in our woods. The best time to come is after the mosquito hatch in the spring, probably July, and you won't need wading boots. It does get awfully damp back there. Moving on now, enough about our trees, but think about the trees you have. You all have some. So the next part of my discussion is your trees. And no matter what you accomplish or what you do, there's always someone that has done even more, thankfully for that. We have two congregational members. Karen Lovengood, she actually has 105 acres, and she estimates that about 50 of those acres are forested. So she gets first place in a number of trees. We've actually signed up Tracy to come out and count all the trees on both plots. It won't take him more than 6 months. There are thousands upon thousands. And he has to count all the trees, the black locust and all the others. But surprisingly enough, he's agreed to do that. The other interesting story is that Tracy has a ginkgo tree. And I'm going to jump ahead of ourselves to the next subject, was our trees. And he claims that that tree is larger than the oak tree I'll speak about in a minute here at the church. And we've had a measurement done by his son Nolan, but he actually held out one arm to determine the diameter. And then he's supposed to come here and hold out the same arm. But it's been months ago now on the ginkgo tree. And it's been months now, and Nolan is growing so fast that I think it's going to be slanted towards his dad's tree. Anyway, think about the ones that you have. Think about a space you may have to plant a tulip tree, the state tree, or something else. On to our trees. We're blessed in Indiana, and most of us don't think of it because we live in a pretty urban area. Indiana has about 23 million acres, and 20% of the state is forested. That is a significant number. The DNR lands actually that they manage, and along with some federal lands, amounts to about 743,000 acres. The Hoosier Forest in south central Indiana is also a federal facility. That facility alone is just about 200,000 acres. And the DNR, the classified forest and wildland, that's not all forest, it doesn't have to be, but the program that we're in, there's about 800,000 acres, according to the latest DNR figures. So our trees include, now that I've mentioned how much is forested in Indiana, when you look around, you'll see woodlots. Our original farmers didn't clear all the land. I guess they wanted wood to build things, and they wanted wood for firewood, that kind of thing. So we have an extremely, considering the value of our land for agriculture, we've got a lot of trees. The Primo Natural Forest, and I know Carla Bank has visited there, that in the United States, we have a rainforest with giant sequoias, not as big as the big redwoods, but it's in Alaska. It's 17 million acres of forested land. Almost all of it has never been logged. And the impression you get when you walk through that is how small you are. And it's quite humbling, really, when you think about trees. Some of them have been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And we are truly just the stewards, and we need to keep that situation going. The ginkgo tree here at Hobart, out in the north yard of the church, was planted about 1967 in honor of C.N. Davis, who died unexpectedly when he was 16 years old by his mother. The tree was probably 6 inches in diameter when it was put in, and there was a plaque that wrapped around it. The tree outgrew that. Needless to say, it's probably over 3 feet in diameter. And it suffers a lot of human indignities because it impinges on the power lines, and periodically it gets whacked. And as much as we try to minimize that, it's really difficult. But it's doing very well, and it's beautiful. And Jerry Ashmore can tell you that it's a wonderful tree when he used to rake leaves, because the leaves come down in 1 day or 2 days all at once. So the next time you're here at church, be sure and have a look at it and appreciate what it is. It's a prehistoric tree, and there are very few around. And Tracy's is also quite a beautiful tree. So on that note, we'll wind things down here. To end this discussion, I want to read an excerpt from the UU World a few months ago. This was written by Stephanie Kaza, and she's a professor emeritus from Vermont University. She's a Unitarian, lives in Oregon now, and she's also a graduate of Starr King Theological School. And this is about a black oak. Dark branches high in the bright sky, the craggy form of the black oak hangs over the wet earth. Streaming strands of spider silk glint from every distant twig. In the hollows of the trunk, spongy moss and small colonies of ferns drip with spring rains. Beneath the large limbs, the ground is richly littered with the season of leaves. Crickets, stink bugs, centipedes jump and crawl through the maze of crumbled bark and moldy loam. A varied thrush lifts silently into the canopy. A hummingbird darts from perch to perch, gleaning for insects. The black oak in the hills of Napa Valley serves the many beings that wander into its chamber in search of food and shelter. Thousands upon thousands of beings, minuscule, migratory, marauding, an endless stream of living beings, hatching, mating, gobbling, and being gobbled, wander and get lost, all in the generosity of the black oak. One could say that the black oak is one who exists to serve all beings. Simply by existing, it serves many others. When it dies, it will continue to serve, offering its bark as home for beetles, its fallen branches as shelves for fungi. For human beings, it is a path of kindness, the choice to serve others as a way of life, a tribute to life. Think of the gardener patiently tending her seedlings, or the Greek steward planting willow shoots to shore up an eroding bank. Each is moved by the desire to actively serve others in some meaningful way. I think that summarizes things very well. I just want to repeat, if it dries out a little bit, you're all invited to come and have a walk in our woods. Several people have done that. I think Marty Pizzini and Richard Johnson had a grand walk, and also Jerry Ashmore has helped with with a controlled burn we had a few years ago. And now we will move on to the closing hymn. "'Tis a gift to be simple." The words are printed on the screen.
We're going to do our offering first.
Okay, I've been corrected by the voice that comes from the instrument. The offering is first. You can use PayPal, send those contributions so we can keep functioning. And now we'll go on to the last hymn. "'Tis a gift to be simple."
Tis a gift to be simple, tis a gift to be free, tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, it will be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, and we shan't be ashamed. To turn, will be our delight, till by turning, we come round just right.
Now we're going to have the closing reading by Zita. Here she is.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to read the poem Trees by Joyce Kilmer. It was written in 1913, and Joyce Kilmer was a very young man, and he was serving in World War I. I don't get it. And he died in the war. So here I go, if I can do it. Excuse me. I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast, a tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray, a tree that may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, whose ultimately lives with rain. Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. Thank you. Have a good day and stay healthy.
And now we'll have our postlude by Jeremy Jacobson.
Please join us in extinguishing the chalice. The words are printed on your screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.